imagine? Outside, a storm rages, thunder crashes, and the waves roar. You look out the window of the lighthouse, but all you can see is the beam of light shining on his pale face and a maimed arm. What's even more terrifying is that a pale, dreadful hand keeps knocking on your door, urging you to jump into the sea. But your only lighthouse colleague is already dead. So who is knocking on the door outside? The tragedy between the two lighthouse keepers resulted in the death of one and the mental breakdown of the other. Over 200 years later, in 2019, this story was adapted into the film The Lighthouse, which achieved great success and was nominated for the Oscar for Best Cinematography. The elder keeper was portrayed by Willem Dafoe, known for his role as the Green Goblin, and the new keeper was played by the new Batman, Robert Pattinson. Today, let me tell you the true horror story of the Smalls Lighthouse in history. Smalls Lighthouse is a lighthouse that stands on the largest of a group of wave-washed basalt and dolerite rocks known as the Smalls, approximately 20 miles west of Marloes Peninsula in Pembrokeshire, Wales, and 8 miles west of Grasholm. It was erected in 1861 by engineer James Douglas to replace a previous lighthouse which had been erected in 1776 on the same rock. It is the most remote lighthouse operated by Trinity House. The original Smalls Lighthouse was erected at the instigation of John Phillips, a Liverpool merchant and shipowner, between 1775 and 1776, to the plans of Liverpool musical instrument maker Henry Whiteside, IT, stood on 9 oak pillars, allowing the sea to pass through beneath. The original intention had been to use cast iron, but this was soon abandoned for English oak, as being more elastic and trustworthy. The light was provided by 8 oil lamps placed in glass-faceted reflectors. These were replaced in 1817 by double the number of lamps, together with silvered parabolic reflectors, which were far more efficient. During its life, a significant number of extra struts were added beyond the original 9. The pillar-based design has since been used successfully in many maritime structures. In 1800, the Smalls Lighthouse was manned by 2 caretakers, Thomas Howell and Thomas Griffith. Despite sharing the same name, these 2 men were not related and were not even friends. Several years ago, Griffith and Howell had worked together at another lighthouse, but their relationship was far from amicable. In January 1801, they began living in the lighthouse on this small island. However, even with all their preparations, they were constantly plagued by harsh weather conditions. Shortly after their arrival, they endured over a month of relentless storms. One stormy night, as Griffith was conducting his usual inspection around the lighthouse, a wave suddenly struck, causing him to slip and hit his head on a pillar. He fell into a coma. Howell quickly discovered the injured Griffith. Despite their previous animosity, Howell put aside their differences and carried Griffith back to their living quarters, where he cared for him. Howell had 2 main concerns. First, the supply ship was not due to arrive for another 4 months, and if Griffith were to die, Howell would be left alone. Second, with only the 2 of them on the island, if one of them died, the other would be the sole suspect. Moreover, their past conflicts were known to others, and if Griffith were to die, Howell would undoubtedly be the prime suspect. Unfortunately, Griffith did not survive, and this event had a profound impact on Howell. Griffith was the only person who could have helped him. Now, Howell had to prove his innocence. To do so, he needed to preserve the body as much as possible to avoid any suspicion of tampering with the evidence. He also meticulously documented the events leading up to Griffith's death. Being alone on the island with a corpse was terrifying, especially as it began to decompose and emit a foul odor. To maximize preservation, Howell constructed a makeshift coffin from planks and placed Griffith's body inside. As the waves often crashed against the lighthouse, he decided to suspend the coffin from the lighthouse's waist-high balcony, hoping it would last until the supply ship arrived. Howell dragged the coffin outside the bedroom. The balcony provided a secure location, and he used ropes to secure the coffin vertically against the railing. Despite the challenging circumstances, Howell continued to maintain the normal operation of the lighthouse, effectively performing the duties of two people. He was unable to establish contact with the outside world. During one particularly intense stormy night, a passing patrol boat noticed a blurry figure on the island waving to them. Assuming everything was fine, the patrol boat departed without investigating further. Unbeknownst to them, it was not a person waving but the swaying corpse of Griffith. Howell had used ropes to secure the coffin, but the strong winds had scattered it. Initially, Howell worried that the body might fall into the sea. However, a series of terrifying encounters made him realize the foolishness of his decision to keep the corpse with him. One night, after finishing his daily tasks, Howell took a brief rest in the bedroom. It had been a while since he had gone out to the balcony to check on the coffin. To dispel his fears, he locked the door leading to the balcony. Little did he know that the coffin had already been blown away by the strong winds. Instead, what he heard outside the door was the incessant knocking. Through the gap in the door, he witnessed a horrifying scene he would never forget. Griffith's corpse, suspended by ropes, stood outside the door. Its withered arms swayed in the wind as it repeatedly struck the wooden door. The hollow eye socket seemed bottomless, and the exposed teeth created a grotesque smile. It seemed to beckon Howell to let it in. But Howell knew that he could not allow that thing to enter, nor could he go outside. What if it was trying to lure him into jumping into the sea? One man and one corpse remained in a deadlock for 4 months. During this time, there were a few days when the winds subsided slightly, and a patrol boat passed near the island. They saw a vague figure on the island waving to them. Assuming everything was normal, the patrol boat left without further investigation. However, it was not a person waving. It was the swaying corpse of Griffith. In fact, if Howell had chosen a different location to place the body, the patrol team might have come ashore, and the subsequent events could have been avoided. Some may wonder how the body was preserved during those months and if it would have been eaten by seagulls. Normally, it takes a year for a body to decompose completely and turn into bones. Therefore, for months would not have been enough time for the body to become skeletal. Additionally, the lighthouse, being a large structure, provided some protection from the rain. The main exposure the body faced was from the sun and wind. Under these conditions, the body would have likely mummified, indirectly preserving it. As for the seagulls, Small's Island is actually a rocky outcrop and not a suitable habitat for seagulls. Even the nearest large landmass is beyond the range of seagulls. Therefore, the possibility of seagulls consuming the body can be ruled out. Additionally, the coffin was not securely fixed, serving more as a shell. The main structure of the body was secured by ropes, fabric, and nails, rather than soft tissue. Therefore, what appeared to be bone-to-bone connections were actually connections between the ropes, fabric, and nails. After 4 months, the supply ship finally arrived. When relief personnel found Howell, he had already been tormented to the point where he no longer resembled a human. This terrifying experience left him with deep psychological scars that would likely never heal. Following a forensic examination, Griffith's death was determined to be accidental. Howell was able to escape suspicion and avoid punishment. This tragic incident led the management organization to change lighthouse policies. The new policy required each lighthouse to have 3 or more caretakers to prevent similar situations from occurring again. This policy remained in effect until the 1980s when most lighthouses became automated. However, can 3 caretakers truly live harmoniously? In the next installment, we will explore the mystery of 3 lighthouse keepers who mysteriously disappeared in Scotland in 1900. Stay tuned,